In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how you generally approach long passages, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about how you approach the two main types of questions that you'll see in this section, which are line questions, those that refer you back to lines, and the main idea questions, the one that asks you about general kind of the primary purpose of the passage, okay? So first things first, as soon as you see a long passage, the first thing you should be doing is reading the italicized words above the passage, okay? I'm going to be honest, sometimes those italicized words completely useless, all right? You're not going to be able to really get much out of it, okay? But sometimes it gives you a good summary of what the entire passage is about, all right? So by reading it, you get a good idea immediately of what the whole thing's about. A lot of people skip these because they think they're directions or something, but they can be very, very helpful, okay? So that would be the first thing I did. All right, number 2, skip the passage, all right? So by this, I mean don't read it, all right? A lot of people are like, what? You don't read the passage? Then how are we supposed to answer the questions? Well, the only questions that are going to be difficult if you don't read the passage are the main idea questions. The ones that ask you, like, what did this passage say? Right? Well, if you see a question like that and you haven't read the passage, of course you're going to be saying things like, I have no idea, I didn't read the passage. So the plan of action is we're going to answer all the line questions first. These are the questions that basically only refer back to a specific line in the passage, okay? And these we can answer without reading the whole thing, okay? So we're going to answer all of those first, and then hopefully by answering all of those line questions, by the end, we'll have a much better idea of what the whole thing's about, and we'll be able to answer the main idea questions, okay? So it's very important. Do not read the passage. It's generally a waste of time, right? And you can do this by answering line questions first, answering main idea questions after, okay? 5, this is true in the whole reading section, but I'm just reiterating it for the long passages. Always use the common wrong answers. And if you forget what those are, you can always look at the video that comes along with all the reading questions with the common wrong answers. So just refresh on that because it's very, very important, okay? Now we're going to talk about the very specific types of questions. So I said do the line questions first. Well, how do you approach the line questions? Well, first of all, this is important. Slow down, okay? A lot of people do this section way too quickly, okay? Maybe it's because they think they're going to run out of time, but remember, the goal on this test is not to finish the entire section. It's to get all the questions you're doing right. Okay, so you want to slow down everything a little bit slower than you normally do it, okay? Number 1, the first thing you want to do is understand the question. So take time to really understand what they're asking you, okay? It's important because when you go back to the passage, you want to know already what you're looking for, okay? Number 2, read one sentence before and one sentence after the given line. So if they say, go back to line 15 in your passage, well then I'm going to read a sentence before that line and a sentence after that line. That's a rule of thumb, right? But sometimes you need to read a little bit more than that, right? You need to basically read as much as you need to understand what's going on in that line, okay? Most of the times one before, one after is okay, but sometimes it has to be a little bit more. Number 3, paraphrase the line in your own words. Okay, this is probably the most important step, okay? And a lot of people kind of misinterpret what it means to paraphrase, all right? You're not trying to bring in or interpret the passage, okay? You're not supposed to bring in your own meaning or interpret the passage. What you want to do is basically take the words that are on the page and say those same exact words, but in simpler words, okay? So just take the sentence and put it into your own simpler words. That's it. Don't try to interpret what the author was trying to say or what you think he was trying to say. just put that same sentence in the same exact order with simpler words, okay, so that you understand it. Now, once you kind of have a conclusion of what you just read, right, then you're going to your answer choices and matching using the common wrong answers. All right, the common wrong answers are useful through this entire section. So when you go back and are trying to match your meaning from 3, right, you also want to see, are there any strong language, any strong words, are there any broad generalizations, okay? And if you forget your common wrong answers, remember, there's the video that comes along with every reading question, so you can go ahead and look at that to refresh it, okay? But that's the line questions, all right? Read one before, one after. Take some time to paraphrase. Put it into your own words, right? Try not to even go back to your answer choices until you think you have a pretty strong conclusion of what you just read, okay? Then try to match your paraphrase. Last but not least, main idea questions. So once you've answered all line questions, you can go back to the ones that ask you about general ideas, okay? Now, there's some tips for main idea questions. Number 1, get rid of any answer choices that talk about specifics from the passage, right? A main idea is supposed to be general. It's supposed to be a broad idea. So if you have an answer choice that is talking about something that was only said once in the passage, right, that's definitely not going to be your main idea. Number 2, use the italicized words that came before the passage. Okay, remember, sometimes they're not very useful, but sometimes they're an actual summary of what the whole thing's about. So your main idea that you pick, the answer that you pick, has to be consistent with the italicized words that are before the passage. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, check your answer against every paragraph. Okay, so if you're about to commit to C, okay, you think the answer is C. Well, you better be able to find C in your first paragraph, in your second paragraph, in your third paragraph. However many paragraphs you have to be able to find the main idea in basically all of them. If you go and you think it's C, and you go back and you check, and you can only find that idea in 1 out of the 3 paragraphs, or however many paragraphs you have, it's probably not your main idea. Okay? So using these 3 things together can be very powerful to make sure that you have the right main idea. Okay, so to recap, for long passages, don't read the passage. Okay, go straight to your questions, answer all the line questions first, and then once you're finished that and have a much better idea of what the entire passage is about, then you answer the main idea question.